This is the Washington Times front page for Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Trump says he'll issue a 50% tariff on imported copper and signaled he was preparing high levies on pharmaceutical imports. Tom Howell reports the copper decision follows Trump's imposition of a 25% tariff on cars and car parts brought into the country and 50% levies on steel and aluminum. Copper is a key component in electrical wiring and construction. Prices of the metal surged to record highs after the president's sudden announcement at a cabinet meeting. On pharmaceuticals, Trump said he would make an announcement very soon. He suggested drug makers would get a grace period that would let them move operations back to the United States before any tariffs take effect. Army soldiers who deployed to any of 14 countries in the Middle East and Africa between late 2023 and mid-2025 can now wear a combat patch on their right shoulder. Mike Glenn reports Army Chief of Staff General Randy George approved granting combat patches for soldiers who were deployed during the covered time period to the Middle Eastern and African countries between October 2023 and June of this year. The authorization applies only to active duty soldiers and those in the Army Reserves and National Guard. Officials said they must have served for at least a day during the authorized time frame. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he would roll out the welcome mat for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu if he visited the city, distancing himself from Zohran Mamdani, his top rival in the mayoral race. Seth MacLachlan reports Adams is trying to make the most of the blowback against Mamdani, accusing him of using anti-Semitic rhetoric during his campaign. Mamdani has called for the Jewish leader to be arrested if he sets foot in New York. The contrast between the top two contenders in New York's mayoral race is testing the Democratic Party's ties to Israel and a large number of Jewish voters. California Governor Gavin Newsom is pitching himself as the antidote to President Trump, urging Democrats in the Deep South to push back against the MAGA agenda by helping the party win back control of the House. Susan Ferricchio reports Newsom was on a mini swing through South Carolina this week, sticking to very conservative and rural areas where he said his party has too often ignored voters. He shook hands and took selfies in a small, crowded coffee shop in downtown Florence. The two-term governor is among a handful of Democrats who've already begun visiting early primary states, of which South Carolina has become one of the most important. The state voted solidly Republican in the general election, but played a pivotal role in delivering the Democratic nomination to Joe Biden in 2020. And finally, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett's legal zigzags over the last 2 years had begun to disturb conservative court watchers before last month's birthright citizenship case. In that case, Alex Sawyer and Stephen Dinan report she delivered the 6-3 decision conservatives had hoped for, offering a defense of the limits of federal judges' power. Barrett was in the court's majority this year in 58 of 65 total rulings with opinions, or 89% of the time, ranking her third among the court's 9 members. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. And a quick programming note, the front page will be off for the rest of the week and return on Monday, July 14th. From the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.